Straight up. Welcome back to Way Happy Bible Study on CBN. Okay, let's go ahead and get back into our study. That first segment, I guess we were just going to be talking about what happens during the rapture to us who are alive. How about that? I know a lot of people think that they die when Jesus shows up, but for the children of God, there is no end of the world. Okay. If you're alive when Jesus comes, that doesn't mean you're going to die. It means you're going to be evacuated alive and you're going to be brought back alive to continue living on the earth with the family that you have, with all your loved ones. You're going to be just fine. You're not going to die when Jesus comes. That is our rescue. We're going to live when Jesus comes. Okay. It's going to be awesome. So we're recapping chapter 12 of Revelation, and the first 3 verses are the star alignments that shows the woman, that's Israel, clothed with the sun, moon under her feet, upon her head a crown of 12 stars. This alignment did show up last September 23rd, 2017. John was brought forward in time to see this alignment in the sky and then taken back to his own time to write about it so we would know to watch for it. It's like a 1-year warning. Okay? And so we can see in verse 3, you have the New World Order, the dragon constellation. The tail of this constellation is the location in the sky where you will see the 1/3 cast down and Satan cast down. It looks like they fall like a meteor shower. Okay. And that may send everybody underground because there could be up to 30,000, 6 legions, 30,000 possibly, between 18 and 30,000 of them crash landing on our planet. And that would send people underground because you have no idea where they're going to fall and land. Now notice that the woman is Israel. In verse 4, notice the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered. The woman's Israel, the dragon is Satan. Okay. So Satan is cast down, stands before the woman, Israel, who is ready to give birth. This means Satan is cast down prior to the evacuation. And he is wanting to devour the children of God as soon as they are revealed. In verse 5, Israel delivers this child. This is the body of Christ, okay? The church. And we are caught up to God and to his throne. And the dragon is not happy about that. And so then, in verse 6, the woman flees into the wilderness and the dragon's pursuing her. Okay, so that tells us what happens. Tells us that Satan is cast down. Then Jesus shows up. The child is evacuated, the body of Christ. And then the devil pursues the woman, Israel, because she stays even though the child is caught up to the throne. and that is the believers, the all of the children and all of the Gentiles who are born with the temple of God inside them. Okay? Now, we are in, after the sixth seal is opened, and that could be July 27th. That is when we're going to find out if my timing is correct here, because we're going to see the sixth seal events. If the sixth seal opens July 27th, and there's a great earthquake, and then a war in heaven takes place in space above our planet, then Satan and his 1/3 are cast down like a meteor shower, and that may send everyone running underground because they can crash land anywhere. But it does explain in Revelation chapter 6. Buzz over to Revelation chapter 6 real quick. This is all really relevant because it's just ahead of us. If my theory's correct, and it might not be, but we're going to find out in July if it is, in July and into August, because if that sixth seal opens July 27th at that blood moon, that's the center blood moon of the triad, and the 6th out of 7 in the series, then if that's where the sixth seal opens, then we're going to have a great earthquake. Then you're going to have a war in heaven. You'll be able to see a war taking place in space above us. And then they will start crash landing onto the earth. Satan and his 1/3 cast down. And when that happens, we're going to know that Jesus is coming September 10th or 11th for the children and the Gentiles who are born with the temple inside them. Okay? So we don't have to wait until September and wonder. If we see the sixth seal events come after that blood moon, July 27th, then we need to be ready, because that means he will come in September. We just have to wait and see, but it sure does look like that could be a very good possibility at this point. Now, I'm not a psychic or a prophet or even a preacher. I'm a girl, a woman. Okay. I don't get to do that, but I'm a researcher and I watch as commanded by the word. And that's what it looks like. I've put this timeline together over a course of 3 decades plus, and it looks like here we are. It looks like this may be the time. It's all coming together. You see all the nations that are aligning for these wars coming up too. You've got, once these wars begin, they're going to continue all the way to the end. And they would start right there at the midpoint as the temple is defiled and Israel has to flee. Okay, that's what it looks like. But if they start sooner, then we would know this is the time. Okay, so we're going to know. We're not going to be sitting here in September going, well, will this be it or not? We're going to know beforehand whether this is really it or not. Depending on the sixth seal and what it produces. So notice, if you look in Revelation chapter 6, in verse 12, and I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. So there's a great earthquake. We don't know if that's global or if it is regional in the Middle East, but it should come right after the sixth seal is open, and not 6 weeks to 3 months later. It should happen immediately after the sixth seal is open. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. There's your blood moon. The stars of heaven fell into the earth. That is Satan and his 1/3 that are defeated in the war in heaven and cast down. Even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she's shaken of a mighty wind. And then you have the heaven departed as a scroll when it's rolled together. That's probably Jesus showing up. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. I would say that's the return of the king there. And then you have in verse 15, and the kings of the earth, the great men, rich men, chief captains, mighty men, every bondman and every free man, that's everybody, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. They can see his face. They can see him sitting on his throne. He's here at this point. And it says, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? You haven't seen God's wrath yet. God's wrath won't start till the midpoint when the temple is defiled. And then you'll have the trumpet judgments poured out on the earth. It's going to be really, really bad at that point. But this is all possible for this year. Okay, this year. Let's go back over to Revelation chapter 12, and we'll start again in verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. Now, this is after the evacuation has occurred. Israel is running from the serpent. Now it says, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. Now, notice you have the face of the Lord who sits on the throne in after the 6th seal is opened, between seals 6 and 7. The woman flees. Now, these 2 wings of a great eagle, that is telling us that the Jews are not going to flee on foot. They are going to be flown out on airplanes. 2 wings of a great eagle. Okay? Israel's going to be flown out. The remnant's going to be flown out on airplanes into the wilderness, probably over to Petra, or into Jordan, where she is nourished for a time. See, a time is 1 year, and times, that's 2 years, and half a time. So that's 3.5 years. That's the whole second half, that the remnant that is flown out on airplanes are protected from the face of the serpent. In verse 15, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Now, this could be a couple of different things. Notice the serpent cast out of his mouth. Now, he's going to be ruling the world. The serpent, Lucifer, Satan, the snake, through the Pope. He's going to actually inhabit the body of the Pope like he inhabited the body of Judas. So this could be that the serpent puts out the word internationally, kill all the Jews. And that would be a type of flood going after them in all the places where they are hidden among the nations. But it says here, the earth helped the woman in verse 16, and opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So this means supernatural protection. Okay? And especially for the 144,000, they've got supernatural protection. They cannot be killed or captured until their job is finished. In verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman. He's mad, he's livid, he's furious, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Now, if there are any remaining Gentiles, they are lumped in with the Jews here that are children of God. If I'm wrong about all of the Gentiles being taken, and there are some left here, this is where they would be in trouble, where they would be the remnant of her seed. But the second half is the Jews. Okay, it's all about the Jewish people during the second half. And so he's talking about The dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So any Jew or Gentile during that time who is following the God of Abraham and keeping his commandments, they are going to want to kill you during this second half. Now we're going to go into Revelation chapter 13. This is another chapter that focuses on a specific topic. See, chapter 12 focuses on the events between the star alignment, which came this last September, and the return of the king, and the evacuation. This, actually in order, it would be the sixth seal, Satan being war in heaven, Satan being cast down, Jesus showing up, the evacuation taking place, all that. It focuses specifically on that period of time. Now in chapter 13, this is where the Revelation focuses on the beast, focuses on what to expect from him. Okay? So we're going to go into chapter 13 and verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. You're looking at people when it says sea. Okay? Saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. This is the New World Order. This is also the 10 kings. Now, if you look, this is all explained in Revelation chapter 17. Turn over real quick, and we're going to look at verse 9 in chapter 17. We've done this before, but we're going to cover this again. In verse 9, here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So over here in chapter 13, the 7 heads are 7 mountains. That's Rome. Okay? And then it talks about how the 8th pope that is also a king is the Antichrist, the son of perdition. Now, the popes weren't kings until 1939 when Italy signed the Lateran Treaty with the Vatican. Since 1939, the popes have also been kings. That is why it's talking about here that the 8th pope that is also a king is the son of perdition. He's the Antichrist. Now, as we get to that part, we'll focus on it more. But he says, having 7 heads, 10 horns. Now, there's 10 kings that rule in the geographic location where the Roman Empire ruled. That's Europe. Okay? We know this because in Daniel, in Nebuchadnezzar's statue, and in the visions given to Daniel, God shows these kingdoms that are going to arise after Babylon in the same geographical area as the Roman Empire. Okay? You had the Babylonian Empire. Then you had the Medo-Persian Empire. That's the Medes and the Persians. And they ruled that whole area. Then after them, you had Alexander the Great. And he ruled that entire area. Same geographical area for all of these empires. Okay? Now, Alexander the Great's kingdom was broken up into 4 pieces after he died at a very young age, in his early 30s. And Seleucus, who was ruling one of those quarters, his part became Rome at a certain point and became the Roman Empire. And after Rome fell, Then for the end times, which is our generation, you have what is called the revived Roman Empire. And it will always be in the same geographical location as Babylon, Medo-Persia, Alexander the Great, and then Rome. Okay? So revived Rome is what we're looking at here. These 10 kings would be, it says these 10 kings have a kingdom, but they're not kings yet. They're not kings right now before Satan is cast down. They're kings after he's cast down. They become kings under his administration, under his rule. So they're not kings yet, but they will be later on at that point. Wow. Okay, we're going to take a real quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Straight up.